So Leslie, let's talk about implementation, which is the mantra we're hearing loud and clear here at COP27. Do you believe it?
Look, I think COP26 in many respects, certainly for those of us who are in the financial sector, was kind of the finance COP last year, because it placed the financial sector right at the center of what needs to be done, meaning how do we use financial markets, capital markets to green the economies. And this year the expectations are obviously different. As you say, it's about implementation, meaning what new financial instruments have we designed? What are the concrete ways in which we can, for example, de-risk sustainable investments so that we can crowd in and bring in the big institutional money like asset managers, institutional capital, sovereign wealth funds, and so on. Not much of that has happened. There's been a lot of pledges made, but this is the focus. It's about what's next.
And what are you looking for from a implementation perspective? Do you want to see signed documents by the time you leave Sharm el-Sheikh?
I think, as you know, one of the big focus areas of COP this year, because it is hosted in an emerging market economy, so the issues of the just transition is center stage. So one of the big focuses will be about the responsibilities, the obligations of the developed world. As you know, these countries, the United States, Europe, they industrialized much earlier at a time when the cost of carbon and coal was not an issue, right? So
they essentially caused the climate crisis.
Well, that's exactly right. And if you look at Africa, more than 1.1 billion people, Africa, the entire continent, contributes 3.8% of global emissions. So if you pick any African country, we only have about 35% sustainable supply of electricity in Africa, with vast resources of coal under the ground, dirty coal if you like. So we can't slow down the pace of economic progress in Africa because we should only rely on solar energy, for example, and wind energy. If that investment is not forthcoming, there are many countries that still will rely on coal, on gas, and other forms of energy. So the key point I'm making is that $100 billion that was pledged way back at Copenhagen 13 years ago has not really left the developed world. So because COP is hosted now with the emerging market context, there'll be a big focus here about the moral, historical, and ethical responsibilities of the developed world to fulfill those commitments.
If they don't fulfill those commitments, then it's all just a waste of time, isn't it? As you said, 10, 13 years ago, we still haven't seen the money. So it's now or never.
But progress has been slow. There has been progress, though. It's very important to look at the glass half full, right? It's obviously a very challenging external environment. But if you just look today, look at the energy and the buzz here at COP27. This topic is center stage in every boardroom, with every regulator, with every government, in private companies, in development banks like ourselves. Let's take New Development Bank or the World Bank. We all have either 40% or 50% of all of our lending goes towards climate finance. This is not the case 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So there's been real material progress. The issue, though, is how to inject a lot more urgency and momentum now.
Another theme that's coming across very strongly is the fact that the financing needs to come in the way of grants. This is not about loans at a high interest rate. It's got to be grants.
Well, I think the key point here is to focus on what we call in finance blended finance, meaning grants or concessional finance, for example, zero interest rate loans, has a very critical role to play. But that can only go so far, because what we need to do is to crowd in the entire financial and capital markets into the sustainable agenda. So the concessional part is only one component, meaning we should use that in a catalytic way, in a way that can unlock other resources. Because even the 100 billion commitment I spoke of earlier on is very small in the scheme of things. Let's take South Africa. South Africa has a $8.5 billion energy transition program. It was announced last year at Glasgow, right? $8.5 billion in the scale of the South African economy is actually quite small, right? Only a portion of those funds will be in a concessional form, will be grants, will be concessional loans. The vast majority of it will be loans where there will be an interest rate will need to be paid.
Hopefully a relatively attractive interest rate.
That is exactly right. And that's what development banks offer. Development banks have the advantage that we are very highly rated institutions. So our cost of capital is low, meaning we can raise money much cheaper and then on lend to countries like South Africa, which is sub-investment grade. So we use our high, in our case, AA plus for the World Bank AAA credit rating. We lend to South Africa, which is BB minus, and the cost that South Africa would pay is just so much more. So South Africa needs to make much more imaginative use of the Africa Development Bank, New Development Bank, World Bank, and all the other financial institutions.
As always, so great chatting to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.